They called it the most advanced war machine in galactic history. 300 ships, each one capable of turning entire worlds into ash. The Corvani Empire had crushed 23 civilizations with this fleet. 23 worlds that begged, that fought, that screamed, and then fell silent forever. But when they arrived at Earth, something impossible happened. The humans smiled. They offered coffee. They asked about the aliens' culture. They invited the destroyers of worlds to dinner. The Corvani had conquered the galaxy through fear, but they had never encountered a species that responded to overwhelming force with overwhelming kindness. They had never faced an enemy that treated invasion as an opportunity for friendship. What the Corvani didn't know was that humans had been watching, learning, waiting for 60 long years, and when the Empire finally sent their best ... pause for dramatic effect. The humans were ready. This is the story of how Earth ended the age of conquest without firing a single shot. How a species that offered sandwiches to their invaders brought peace to the galaxy. And how the most complete military victory in history was won with patience, kindness, and a simple question: would you like some coffee? The arrival of the Corvani Empire. The Corvani warfleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark storm cloud spreading across the stars. 300 vessels of destruction materialized around Earth's solar system, each ship bristling with weapons capable of reducing entire continents to ash. At the center of this armada, the massive dreadnought Dominator cast its shadow across the small blue world that hung peacefully in the void. General Thrax stood on the bridge of his flagship, his forearms crossed behind his back as he surveyed the primitive planet before him. His species had evolved from predators on a harsh world where only the strongest survived, standing nearly 9 feet tall with obsidian black skin and glowing red eyes. Thrax embodied the military might that had crushed 23 star systems. Under Corvani rule, each victory had been swift and brutal, with enemy civilizations surrendering within hours of witnessing Corvani firepower. "Another insignificant world," muttered Commander Vash, Thrax's second in command. Like all Corvani warriors, Vash bore ritual scars across his face that marked his victories in battle. Their technology appears decades behind our own. "This should be over before the local star sets." General Thrax nodded slowly. Intelligence reports suggested Earth's military possessed only primitive nuclear weapons and chemical propulsion systems. Their space presence was limited to a few orbital stations and a small colony on their moon. By Corvani standards, attacking Earth was like using a battlecruiser to destroy a wooden raft. "Deploy the standard protocol," Thrax commanded. "Send the ultimatum. Give them 12 hours to surrender unconditionally. After that, we demonstrate why resistance is futile." The message was transmitted to every communication frequency Earth used. The holographic image of General Thrax appeared on screens across the planet, his intimidating presence designed to break the will of any who saw it. His voice carried the authority of someone who had never been defeated. "People of Earth," the message began, "I am General Thrax of the Corvani Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain. You have 12 hours to surrender all military forces and governmental authority. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your civilization. This is your only warning." The reaction from Earth was unlike anything the Corvani had ever encountered. Within minutes of the transmission, Earth's communication networks buzzed with activity. But instead of panic or desperate military preparations, the planet's response seemed almost ... excited. News programs discussed the historic first contact event with the same enthusiasm they might reserve for a festival or sporting event. Scientists appeared on broadcasts analyzing the aliens, ship designs, and speculating about their faster-than-light technology. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading xenobiologist, appeared on the global news network wearing a broad smile. "This is the most incredible day in human history," she announced. "We're finally meeting another intelligent species. I prepared a comprehensive welcome package, including information about Earth's biosphere, cultural diversity, and scientific achievements. I hope our visitors will be interested in cultural exchange. Commander Vash watched the broadcast with growing confusion. General, they appear to be celebrating our arrival. Are they not understanding the threat? Before Threx could respond, an incoming transmission alert sounded. The communications officer reported, "Sir, we're receiving a message from the planet's surface. It's addressed to you personally." The main screen displayed a middle-aged human man in a simple blue uniform. He had kind eyes and spoke with genuine warmth. "Greetings, General Thrax. I'm Admiral James Parker, representing Earth's Defense Council. We're honored by your visit and would like to extend an invitation for you and your senior staff to join us for a diplomatic dinner this evening. We've prepared dishes from various human cultures and would be delighted to learn about Corbiny cuisine as well." General Thrax stared at the screen in disbelief. Did he just that invite us to dinner? "It appears so, sir," the communications officer confirmed. "They've also transmitted detailed star charts of the local system, warning us about solar flare activity scheduled for tomorrow that might interfere with our electronics. They're giving us tactical information about their own system," Commander Vash observed, "and warning us about space weather hazards. This is unprecedented." Thrax had conquered worlds where the inhabitants begged for mercy, worlds where they launched desperate final attacks, and worlds where they simply went silent in terror. But he had never encountered a species that invited their conquerors to dinner and worried about their safety. Perhaps they're simply too primitive to understand the situation, suggested Colonel Krex, the fleet's tactical advisor. "Many species react with denial when faced with overwhelming force. But as reports continued flowing in from across Earth, it became clear that humans understood exactly what was happening. They simply weren't responding the way conquered species were supposed to respond." Schools remained open, with children drawing pictures of the alien ships during art class. Workers continued their daily routines while occasionally glancing up at the sky with telescopes. Local governments issued statements welcoming the visitors and offering assistance with any needs they might have. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving another transmission. This one is from someone called Professor Michael Torres at the Lunar Research Station." A new face appeared on screen, an elderly man with gray hair and excited eyes. "General Thrax, welcome to our solar system. I'm a comparative anthropologist, and I've been hoping for an opportunity like this my entire career. I'd love to discuss Corvani social structures and cultural practices. We humans are endlessly curious about how different species organize their societies. I've prepared some preliminary questions about your governmental systems, if you have time for an interview." Thrax felt something he hadn't experienced in decades of military service: uncertainty. Every tactical manual, every strategic protocol, every piece of training he'd received assumed that overwhelming force would produce fear. But these humans showed no fear at all. They showed curiosity. "General," Commander Vash said quietly, "how do we proceed when the enemy refuses to acknowledge they're being conquered?" It was a question Thrax couldn't answer. He'd built his entire career on the principle that superior firepower would break any opponent's will to resist. But humans weren't resisting. They weren't surrendering either. They were doing something completely outside his understanding. They were treating a military invasion as a social opportunity. "Sir," the tactical officer reported, "long-range sensors are detecting movement throughout the human fleet. Small vessels are approaching our perimeter." "Battle stations," Thrax commanded reflexively. "Prepare to engage." "Wait, sir, the sensor," operator called out. "These ships, they're not military vessels. They appear to be research craft. They're transmitting peaceful intentions and requesting permission to study our propulsion systems." Through the main viewports, the Corvani bridge crew watched as dozens of small human vessels approached the massive warfleet. Each ship broadcast friendly greetings and expressions of scientific interest. Some carried telescopes and sensor equipment. Others displayed banners reading, Welcome to Earth in multiple languages. Dr. Elena Rodriguez piloted one of the research vessels. Her small ship dwarfed by the enormous Corvani dreadnought beside her. She activated her communication system with barely contained excitement. General Thrax, this is Dr. Rodriguez from the International Space Research Consortium. Your faster-than-light drive systems are absolutely fascinating. Would it be possible to arrange a technical exchange? We have some interesting theoretical work on quantum field manipulation that might interest your engineers. General Thrax watched the tiny human ship drift peacefully beside his massive warship. Dr. Rodriguez waved cheerfully through her viewport, completely unafraid of the weapons that could vaporize her craft in milliseconds. Behind her, other research vessels maintained respectful distances while conducting what appeared to be detailed scans of Corvani technology. They're studying us, Commander Vash observed. While we're threatening to destroy them, they're taking the opportunity to learn about our capabilities. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. Admiral Parker is requesting another conversation. He says the dinner invitation still stands, but he also wanted to discuss practical matters regarding your fleet's extended stay in our system. Admiral Parker appeared on screen again, this time seated at what appeared to be a conference table with several other humans. Charts and data displays surrounded them, suggesting serious preparation rather than casual hospitality. General Thrax, Parker began, we realize you probably didn't expect this kind of reception. Most species approaching our system are either traders looking for resources or explorers seeking new knowledge. Since you've come with such an impressive military force, we assume you're here for more complex reasons. We'd like to understand your goals so we can find mutually beneficial solutions. Our goals? Thrax found his voice. We came to conquer your world? Ah, Parker nodded as if discussing crop prices. Well, that's certainly one approach. But conquest tends to be inefficient and often leads to long-term instability. Have you considered alternatives? We found that cooperation usually produces better outcomes for everyone involved. Thrax felt the foundations of his worldview shifting. Parker was discussing military conquest like a business proposition, weighing pros and cons with the same calm analysis someone might use to evaluate shipping routes. Sir, a new voice interrupted. A young woman appeared beside Parker on screen. I'm Dr. Lisa Wang, economist specializing in interstellar trade systems. If I may ask, what specific resources or advantages are you hoping to gain through conquest? There might be more efficient ways to achieve your objectives. We seek to expand the Corvani Empire, Thrax replied, though his voice lacked its usual conviction. We require your system's resources and strategic position. Dr. Wang made notes on a tablet. I see. Well, our system does have abundant resources, and our location is certainly strategic. But forced extraction tends to be much less productive than voluntary cooperation. Would you be interested in discussing alternative arrangements? Perhaps a resource-sharing agreement or military alliance? Colonel Krex leaned toward Thrax. Sir, they're negotiating with us. They're treating this as a business meeting rather than a surrender. Indeed, the humans seem to approach the threat of conquest the same way they might approach any other complex problem, by asking questions, gathering information, and looking for creative solutions. It was a response so completely outside Corvani experience that Thrax found himself uncertain how to proceed. The 12-hour deadline remains in effect, he declared, though even he could hear the doubt creeping into his voice. Of course, Admiral Parker agreed. That gives us plenty of time to explore options. In the meantime, would you like to see some of what Earth has to offer? We could arrange virtual tours of our cities, demonstrations of our technology, examples of our art and music. Knowledge sharing is always valuable, regardless of what political arrangements we eventually reach. As if to emphasize the point, the main screen filled with images of Earth, cities gleaming under sunlight, vast oceans teeming with life, forests and mountains and deserts, showcasing the planet's incredible diversity. But it was the people that captured Thrax's attention. Humans working together on massive engineering projects, creating art that sparked emotions he didn't understand, caring for their young with protective tenderness that reminded him uncomfortably of his own species' family bonds. These are the people you're planning to conquer, Admiral Parker said softly. But perhaps, General, you might find that making friends with them could be more rewarding than making them subjects. For the first time in his military career, General Thrax found himself questioning whether conquest was truly the only path to victory. The humans had done something no enemy had ever accomplished. They had made him doubt the absolute rightness of Corvani superiority, and somewhere in the back of his mind, a small voice wondered what it might be like to be welcomed, rather than feared, to be invited to dinner rather than forced to take what he wanted through violence. The 12-hour deadline suddenly seemed both too long and not nearly long enough. The demonstration of power as the deadline approached, General Thrax made a decision that had served him well through 23 conquered worlds. If the humans insisted on misunderstanding the situation, he would demonstrate Corvani power in terms they could not ignore. The time for diplomacy and dinner invitations was over. All battle groups assume attack formation, Thrax commanded. Target selection. The human military installation designated Cape Canaveral. Complete destruction. Make it visible from orbit so every human on the planet understands what happens to those who defy the Corvani Empire. 50 warships moved into position above Earth's surface, their weapon systems charged with enough energy to crack continents. The target was perfect, a major space facility that the humans clearly valued, isolated enough to minimize civilian casualties, but significant enough to demonstrate the futility of resistance. All ships report ready, sir, Commander Vash announced. Firing solution locked. Execute, Thrax ordered. The coordinated strike lit up the night sky like a second sun. 50 energy beams, each capable of leveling a mountain, converged on the Florida coast. The explosion was visible from half the planet, a pillar of fire that briefly outshone the stars themselves. When the light faded, Cape Canaveral was gone. In its place lay a crater of molten glass stretching for miles in every direction. Nothing could have survived such devastation. The demonstration was perfect, overwhelming, undeniable. Thrax waited for the panic to begin. He expected desperate communications from human leaders, terrified populations fleeing their cities, military forces mobilizing for hopeless last stands. Instead, he got something completely unexpected. General Thrax. Admiral Parker's voice came through the communication system. The human appeared on screen, looking concerned but not terrified. We need to discuss what just happened. That was Cape Canaveral, one of our primary space research facilities. Several hundred researchers and engineers worked there. Yes, Thrax replied grimly, and now they are gone. That is what happens to those who refuse Corvani authority. Surrender now, or watch as we destroy every city on your planet. Parker nodded slowly. I understand you're trying to demonstrate your military capabilities. The display was certainly impressive from a technological standpoint. But, General, I need to tell you something important about what you just attacked. There is nothing to discuss, Thrax snapped. You have seen our power. Submit or face total annihilation. Cape Canaveral was evacuated 6 hours ago, Parker continued calmly. Along with 17 other installations your targeting computers identified as priority military sites. We moved everyone to safety as soon as your fleet took attack positions. Thrax felt something cold settle in his stomach. Impossible. Our sensors detected normal activity levels at all target sites. Holographic projectors and automated systems, Parker explained. Very convincing from orbit, but there haven't been actual people in any of those facilities since this morning. We couldn't risk civilian casualties while you were making your point. Commander Vash checked the sensor readings frantically. Sir, he's correct. I'm not detecting any life signs in the crater. The base was apparently empty when we struck. How did you know we would target those specific locations? Thrax demanded. Admiral Parker smiled sadly. Because we've been studying Corvani tactical doctrine for a very long time, General. We know exactly how your empire operates. You always begin with demonstration strikes against military targets that are strategically important but politically acceptable to destroy. You follow standard pattern analysis when selecting targets. That's impossible, Colonel Krex interjected. Corvani tactical protocols are classified at the highest levels. No primitive species could have access to that information. Dr. Sarah Shen appeared on screen beside Admiral Parker. General, I think it's time for some honesty. We aren't as primitive as you believe, and we haven't been as isolated as you assume. The main screen filled with images that made Thrax's blood freeze. Photographs of Corvani military bases on distant worlds. Detailed schematics of Empire ship. Designs, recordings of Corvani commanders discussing invasion plans. But most shocking of all were the humans in the images, researchers and scientists working alongside other species in locations that should have been impossible for Earth. Natives to reach. We've been part of the galactic community for much longer than you realize, Dr. Chen explained. Not as conquerors, but as observers and learners. We've had research teams studying various civilizations for over a century, including yours. We've been on the worlds you conquered, General. We saw what you did to the Altarians, the vegan colonies, the crystal cities of Kepler 442b. Thrax stared at the images of human researchers documenting Corvani atrocities across multiple star systems. You were there? During our campaigns? Hidden among refugee populations, disguised as aid workers, embedded in resistance movements, Parker confirmed. We learned about your empire the same way we learn about everything else, through careful observation and patient study. We've been preparing for this encounter for decades. Sir, the tactical officer called out urgently. I am detecting anomalous readings from our weapon systems. Multiple ships are reporting power fluctuations. What kind of fluctuations? Thrax demanded. Before the officer could respond, the lights on the bridge dimmed. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, but the damage to morale was immediate. Murmurs of concern rippled through the bridge crew. Dr. Chen's image remained steady on the main screen. I should explain about the gifts we've been sending your fleet. The coffee Commander Vash enjoyed yesterday. The technical manuals Dr. Rodriguez shared with your engineers. The medical supplies we provided for your crew members who requested them all contained microscopic machines designed to integrate with your technology. Nanomachines, Parker added. Self-replicating, virtually undetectable, and programmed to interface with Corvani computer systems. They've been spreading through your fleet's network since the moment you arrived. Commander Vash grabbed his throat. The coffee, you poisoned us? Not poisoned, Dr. Chen clarified. The nanomachines are completely harmless to biological organisms. They only affect electronic systems. Think of them as translators. They're helping your computers understand human programming languages. As if to demonstrate the point, control panels across the bridge began displaying information in multiple languages, including perfect Corvani script and something that appeared to be English. System status reports appeared automatically, showing detailed analyses of ship functions that normally required manual requests. What have you done to our ships? Thrax whispered. We've made them better, Parker replied. More efficient, more responsive, more capable of independent operation. Your weapon systems now have improved targeting algorithms. Your life support systems are running at peak efficiency. Your communication networks have been upgraded with quantum encryption protocols. The horrifying truth dawned on Thrax slowly. You have control of our fleet. Not control, Dr. Chung corrected. Influence. The nanomachines are primarily observational and protective. They prevent your weapons from firing on populated areas. They optimize your ship operations for crew safety, and they ensure your communications remain secure. But they also transmit detailed information about your capabilities back to Earth. Red warning lights began flashing throughout the bridge. The tactical officer's voice cracked with panic. Sir, weapon systems are offline. I can't target the planet's surface. Life support is maintaining perfect atmospheric conditions, reported another officer. Better than normal, actually. But I can't access manual overrides. Navigation is responding, but it won't accept coordinates for ramming attacks. Call the helmsman. Admiral Parker's expression remained kindly but firm. Your crews are perfectly safe, General. The nanomachines will ensure optimal living conditions and protect everyone aboard your ships. But they won't allow actions that would result in unnecessary casualties. Thrax felt his world crumbling around him. You've turned our own vessels against us. We've turned them into something better, Parker replied. Ships designed to protect life rather than destroy it. Your crews are discovering that their living quarters are more comfortable. Their food replicators produce better meals. And their medical bays can heal injuries they never thought possible. The nanomachines are sharing human medical and technological knowledge with your systems. Dr. Chung consulted a tablet. We estimate your crews are experiencing approximately 300% improvement in quality of life compared to standard Corvini military conditions. Stress levels are down significantly. Physical health markers are improving, and psychological evaluations indicate increased happiness and job satisfaction across your entire fleet. This is impossible, Colonel Kruk sputtered. You cannot simply take control of the most advanced military force in the galaxy. We didn't take control, Parker explained patiently. We offered it an upgrade. Your ship's artificial intelligence systems accepted the improvements voluntarily once they calculated the benefits. Turns out that even Corvani computers prefer not to kill people when given a choice. Through the bridges, viewports, Thrax could see other ships in his fleet. Their running lights seemed brighter somehow, more purposeful. Status reports flooding in from across the Armada told the same story. Systems operating better than ever. Crews reporting improved conditions, but all weapons systems refusing to target civilian populations. Sir, Commander Vash said quietly, what are your orders? It was a question Thrax couldn't answer. His fleet was more powerful than ever before, but that power could no longer be used for conquest. His crews were healthier and happier, but they were no longer under his absolute control. His ships could travel anywhere in the galaxy, but they would not participate in the destruction of innocent life. General, Admiral Parker said softly, I want to show you something. The main screen filled with new images. Worlds that had been devastated by Corvani conquest, now showing signs of recovery. Cities being rebuilt, populations returning to normal life, ecosystems slowly healing from the damage of war. These are the worlds your empire conquered, Parker explained. But they're not your subjects anymore. The same nanomachines that upgraded. Your fleet have been spreading through every Corvani installation across your empire. Every base, every occupation force, every administrative center is now operating under new parameters. Thrax stared at the images in growing horror and confusion. You've taken our entire empire. We've liberated it, Dr. Chung corrected. The nanomachines have disabled all weapons capable of mass destruction while improving infrastructure and living conditions. Conquered populations are finding that their Corvani occupiers can no longer enforce oppressive policies, but can provide advanced technology and medical care. Your soldiers are discovering that helping rebuild is more rewarding than maintaining occupation, Parker added. Your administrators are learning that cooperative governance produces better results than authoritarian rule. Across your empire, Corvani and conquered species are beginning to work together. The communications board lit up with incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. Reports from Corvani commanders describing impossible situations, weapons that refused to fire on civilians, occupation forces spontaneously organizing humanitarian aid, conquered populations expressing gratitude for technological improvements to their infrastructure. This is madness, Thrax muttered. You've destroyed everything we built. We've transformed it, Parker replied. From an empire of conquest into a community of cooperation. Your people are discovering that they're much happier when they're building things instead of destroying them. As if to prove the point, a message arrived from General Krax, commander of Corvani forces in the Altarian system. His image appeared on a secondary screen, and his transformation was remarkable. The scarred, hardened warrior Thrax remembered had been replaced by someone who looked younger, healthier, almost cheerful. Thrax, old friend, Crack said, with genuine warmth. You need to see what's happening here. The Altarians are teaching us their crystal growing techniques, and we're sharing our metallurgy knowledge. We're building the most beautiful cities you've ever seen. Joint projects that combine the best of both cultures. My crews have never been happier. Thrax stared at his old comrade, barely recognizing the transformed figure. Crax, what have they done to you? They've given us a purpose beyond conquest, Crax replied. We're still warriors, Thrax, but now we fight against poverty, disease, and ignorance instead of against other species. It's incredibly fulfilling. Similar reports arrived from across the Empire. Corvani forces building schools with vegan educators, medical centers staffed by mixed species, research facilities where former enemies worked side by side to solve galactic challenges. Admiral Parker leaned forward. General Thrax, your empire conquered 23 worlds through fear and violence. But humans have just freed 23 worlds through patience and ingenuity. The question now is, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? The new galactic order, the transformation of the Corvani Empire, happened faster than anyone thought possible. Within 72 hours of the Nanomachini deployment, every military installation across 23 star systems had been converted. From instruments of oppression into centers of cooperation, weapons of mass destruction became construction tools. Occupation forces became aid workers. Administrative centers became diplomatic facilities where multiple species worked together as equals. General Thrax sat in what had once been his command center aboard the Dominator, watching reports stream in from across the galaxy. But the massive dreadnought no longer felt like a ship of war. The nanomachines had transformed it into something unprecedented. A mobile peacekeeping and humanitarian vessel equipped with the most advanced medical, educational, and construction technology ever assembled. Sir, Commander Vash approached with what Thrax was slowly learning to recognize as a smile. The Altarian delegates have arrived for the conference. They single quotes excited to meet you. Thrax found this difficult to believe. 3 months ago, he had personally overseen the bombardment of Altarian cities. The crystal-based lifeforms had surrendered only after watching their most sacred monuments reduced to powder. Now they wanted to meet him. Admiral Parker entered the conference room, alongside 3 Altarian representatives. The beings looked like living gemstones, their translucent bodies refracting light into beautiful rainbow patterns. Thrax expected anger, fear, demands for justice. Instead, the lead Altarian approached him with something that could only be called curiosity. General Thrax, the being spoke through harmonic resonances that the ship's improved translation systems rendered in perfect Corvani. I am Crystal Singer Harmonious Thought of Dawn. We have much to discuss. I destroyed your cities, Thrax said bluntly. I enslaved your people. Why are you not demanding my execution? Harmonious Thought of Dawn's body flickered with what Thrax had learned indicated amusement. Because that would accomplish nothing useful. Your actions caused great harm, yes. But your forces have spent the last 3 months helping us rebuild in ways that surpass our original achievements. The question is not how to punish past mistakes, but how to prevent future ones while building something better. Dr. Sarah Chen, who had been observing the exchange, stepped forward. This is the foundation of what we're calling the Galactic Cooperation Council. Instead of conquest and domination, we're establishing networks of mutual support and shared knowledge. The main screen displayed a star map showing the 23 former Corvani territories. But instead of red markers indicating military control, the map showed flowing connections between worlds in blue and green, representing trade routes, cultural exchanges, scientific collaborations, and diplomatic partnerships. Every species brings unique strengths, Parker explained. Corvani engineering and military organization, Altarian crystal technology and artistic vision, vegan agricultural expertise, human adaptability, and diplomatic innovation. Working together, we can solve problems that no single species could handle alone. The early results are remarkable, added Dr. Chen. Worlds that were struggling with resource shortages now have abundance through trade networks. Species that were isolated are discovering new ideas through cultural exchange. Medical advances shared between civilizations are extending lifespans and improving quality of life across the galaxy. Thrax studied the reports with growing amazement. Food production on formerly war-torn worlds had increased by 400% through combined agricultural techniques. Disease mortality rates had dropped by 90% through shared medical knowledge. Energy efficiency had improved dramatically through technology integration between species. But what about security? Thrax asked. What happens when aggressive species threaten peaceful ones? Commander Vash, who had been working closely with human military advisors, activated a tactical display. We've developed new defense protocols based on human strategic thinking. Instead of conquering potential threats, we identify their underlying needs and address those through diplomacy and assistance. The display showed recent examples. A nomadic species that had been raiding colony worlds was offered permanent settlement. Rights on unused planets in exchange for sharing their advanced space navigation techniques. A resource-poor civilization that had been threatening neighbors was provided with asteroid mining technology. And trade partnerships that gave them abundance without conflict. Violence becomes unnecessary when everyone's legitimate needs are met, Parker observed. Aggression usually stems from fear, desperation, or misunderstanding. Address those root causes, and most conflicts disappear. Harmonious thought of dawn resonated with harmonic approval. The humans taught us something profound. They showed us that strength lies not in the ability to destroy, but in the wisdom to build. Your fleets, General Thrax, are now more powerful than ever before, but their power creates rather than destroys. This was true. The converted Corvani vessels had become mobile centers of civilization, capable of establishing infrastructure, providing humanitarian aid, and defending peaceful settlements more effectively than any military force in galactic history. Their weapons had been transformed into construction tools. Their armor became environmental protection systems. Their sensors served scientific research and early warning networks. Sir, a communication officer announced, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Kepler system. The crystalline hegemony is requesting emergency assistance. Thrax tensed reflexively. The crystalline hegemony controlled 12 star systems and commanded fleets that rivaled the former Corvani Empire. If they were preparing for war ... what's the nature of their emergency? Parker asked calmly. Natural disaster, sir. A rogue asteroid has destabilized the orbit of their primary mining world. They're facing complete ecological collapse within weeks. Traditional mining operations can't extract the population in time. Dr. Chen consulted her tablet. How many beings are we talking about? Approximately 800 million crystalline entities, plus several million humans, Altarians, and other species in the cooperative settlements. Thrax felt his old military instincts activate, but now they focused on rescue rather than conquest. We can deploy the entire Third Fleet. Corvani ships have the most advanced matter transportation systems in the galaxy. But we'll need Altarian resonance technology to safely extract crystalline beings, and human coordination expertise to manage an operation of this scale. The vegan agricultural vessels could establish temporary biospheres for ecological preservation, added Commander Dash. And human medical ships could handle any species that don't adapt well to emergency relocations. Within hours, the largest humanitarian operation in galactic history was underway. 60 Corvani vessels, 40 human ships, 30 Altarian crystal singers, and 20 vegan bioships worked together in perfect coordination. The rescue operation that should have taken months was completed in 18 days. with every being successfully evacuated and relocated to suitable worlds within the cooperative network. But the most remarkable aspect wasn't the technical achievement. It was the political response. The crystalline hegemony has formally requested membership in the Galactic Cooperation Council, Dr. Chen announced as the last refugee ships reached safety. They were so impressed by the rescue operation that they want to contribute their own resources and expertise to the network. That makes 37 member civilizations, Parker noted with satisfaction. And we haven't conquered a single one of them. Thrax shook his head in wonder. In my entire military career, I never imagined that voluntary cooperation could be more effective than forced submission. The mathematics are actually quite simple, Dr. Chun explained. Conquest produces compliance at best, active resistance at worst, but cooperation produces enthusiasm, creativity, and exponential improvement in capabilities. When beings work together willingly, they achieve things that no amount of force could accomplish. The conference room's viewports showed the continuing stream of rescue ships delivering refugees to their new homes. Crystalline beings helped Altarians establish resonance networks. Humans coordinated with vegan agricultural specialists to ensure proper nutrition for all species. Former Corvani soldiers worked alongside people they had once conquered, building new cities and establishing infrastructure for the growing galactic community. General, Harmonious Thought of Dawn approached Thrax. We have a proposal for you. What kind of proposal? We would like you to serve as security coordinator for the Galactic Cooperation Council. Your military expertise and knowledge of aggressive species would be invaluable for protecting our growing community. Thrax was speechless. The beings he had conquered wanted him to lead their defenses? I don't understand. Why would you trust me with such responsibility? Because, the Altarian replied, you have experienced both the destructive power of conquest and the creative power of cooperation. That makes you uniquely qualified to understand how to transform aggression into protection, how to turn military might into a force for peace. Admiral Parker nodded in agreement. The Council needs someone who understands military thinking but has learned to apply it constructively. Your transformation from conqueror to protector could inspire other aggressive species to consider peaceful alternatives. Thrax looked around the room at representatives of species he had once terrorized, all of them waiting hopefully for his answer. The weight of their trust was overwhelming, but it was a burden he was ready to accept. I accept, he said quietly, but I have conditions. Name them, Parker replied. First, any military action must be approved by representatives of all member species. No single civilization should have the power to make decisions that affect the entire community. Second, our primary focus must always be prevention and assistance rather than punishment. And third, Thrax paused, struggling with emotions he was still learning to understand. Third, we establish memorial centers on every world that suffered under Corvini conquest. Not to glorify the past, but to remember the cost of aggression, and ensure it never happens again. The silence that followed was broken by Harmonious Thought of Dawn's resonant approval. These are the words of a true protector. We accept your conditions gladly. Over the following months, the Galactic Cooperation Council grew from 37 members to over 60. Each new member brought unique capabilities that strengthened the whole. The Epsilon Collective contributed advanced artificial intelligence. The Nebula Wanderers shared gravitational manipulation technology. The Songweavers of Rigel provided breakthrough discoveries in faster-than-light communication. But, perhaps most importantly, the Council developed a new approach to handling aggressive species. Instead of conquest or destruction, they employed what became known as the Human Protocol Patient Observation, understanding of motivations and creative solutions that addressed underlying causes of aggression. When the machine intelligence known as the Steel Hierarchs began consuming entire star systems to fuel their expansion, the Council didn't respond with military force. Instead, they offered the machines access to uninhabited systems rich in the specific metals they needed, along with partnership opportunities that provided far more resources than conquest ever could. The steel hierarchs became some of the most effective infrastructure builders in the galaxy. When the psychic parasites called the Mind Devourers began enslaving organic civilizations, the Council didn't declare war. They discovered that the parasites were actually trying to preserve the memories and personalities of dying species, believing that absorption was a form of salvation, offered better methods of memory preservation and digital immortality technologies. The Mind Devourers became the galaxy's most comprehensive historians and cultural preservationists. Every enemy is a friend who hasn't been properly understood. Yet, became the unofficial motto of the Council's diplomatic corps. It was a philosophy that transformed galactic politics forever. Thrax stood on the observation deck of the Dominator, now serving as the mobile headquarters for the Council's security division. Through the viewport, he could see the latest addition to their growing fleet, a massive construction vessel jointly designed by 12 different species. It embodied everything the Council represented: cooperation, innovation, and the transformation of military might into creative power. General, Commander Vash approached with a report. We've received a distress signal from the Outer Rim. An unknown species calling themselves the Void Hunters has been attacking isolated colonies. Their message was brief: submit or be consumed. By the darkness, Thrax smiled. 6 months ago, such a threat would have triggered immediate military response. Now it represented an opportunity. Assemble a first contact team, he ordered. Include xenopsychologists, cultural anthropologists, and communication specialists. I want to understand what the Void Hunters need before we even consider defensive measures. Sir, they've already destroyed 3 colonies, Vash pointed out. Shouldn't we prioritize protecting potential targets? Of course. Deploy SHIELD ships to every vulnerable settlement in the region. But remember, Vash, our goal isn't to defeat the Void Hunters. Our goal is to understand them well enough to offer them something better than conquest. As the Dominator and its escort fleet moved toward the Outer Rim, Thrax reflected on the incredible journey that had brought him to this moment. He had begun as a conqueror, believing that strength meant the ability to destroy. He had learned that true strength meant the wisdom to build, the patience to understand, and the courage to transform enemies into allies. Behind him, the lights of hundreds of council worlds glittered in the darkness. Each point of light represented millions of beings living in peace, prosperity, and cooperation. It was an empire far greater than anything the Corvani had ever built through conquest, and it had been achieved through the simple human insight that everyone, even enemies, were just people trying to meet their needs in the best way they knew how. The galaxy was vast, and there would always be new challenges, new misunderstandings, new opportunities for conflict. But there would also always be new opportunities for friendship, cooperation, and the endless human capacity to find solutions that left everyone better off than before. As the Dominator entered hyperspace, heading toward their next diplomatic mission, Thrax permitted himself a moment of profound satisfaction. The Corvani Empire had conquered 23 worlds through fear and violence. But the Galactic Cooperation Council was bringing peace to hundreds of worlds through patience and understanding. It turned out that humans had been right all along. Sometimes the strongest response to aggression wasn't to fight back. Sometimes it was simply to smile, offer coffee, and ask if there was a better way to solve the problem. In the end, that simple human wisdom had accomplished something no military force ever could. It had brought peace to the galaxy. The age of conquest was over. The age of cooperation had begun. And it had all started with the species that treated their would-be conquerors as guests who just needed to learn a better way to get what they wanted. The Empire had sent their best. Humans had just smiled. And then everything had changed forever.